People spend all their time focusing on all the little details. I need to start writing blogs. I need to start creating a logo. I need to worry about web design. Like the only thing you need to worry about right now is making sales.
This episode is brought to you by Portfolio Box, an online portfolio made by creatives for creatives.
It's all about focus. I don't care who you are, where you're from, doesn't matter. It's having a focus and having a purpose. Now, you wake up every single day to get better today than you were yesterday. It doesn't matter what you are. You're a basketball player, a hockey player, golf player, painter, right? It doesn't matter. Right? You try to reach your full potential by getting better every single day, and that's the quest.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Hardwood Rod Podcast. Today on the show, I'm joined by host of the Sink or Scale podcast and owner of the Sher Agency. Max Sher joins me today, and we're touching base on how to start your business efficiently with the right tools, and should you even start a website? That and much more. Stay locked in. All right, and welcome to another edition of the Hardwood Rod Podcast. It's been an exciting week. I'm excited just to dive in, and as we're wrapping up 2020, there's some new trends, in the market, and so I'm excited to pick this guy's brain a little bit. He's the owner of the Sher Agency and host of the Sink or Scale podcast. Max Sher joins me today. So tell me a little bit about yourself and welcome.
Hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me. I am, like you said, I have a web design agency and a podcast. Those are two things that I do. We specialize in making marketing websites for all kinds of companies, but primarily it ends up being healthcare companies, software companies, and professional services for the most part. So it's like their centerpiece of their marketing that we build for them. It's really fun. It's a perfect blend of like creative and nerdy, which is my intersection perfectly. And then the podcast is it's similar to yours, except we're a little bit more narrowly focused on solely business, where you've got such awesome variety of different people. I was listening to it today. It's awesome stuff.
Nice. That's perfect, man. And tell us, as far as, how's business right now with, everything that's going on in the world? How's business going?
Man, I can't believe how lucky I got. I'm lucky in so many ways here. First of all, my office has been virtual for 5 years, right? I've never had an office. I mean, we tried having an office for a little bit, but the cost outweighed the benefit. But for the most part, we've been virtual forever, so we didn't even have to pivot there. And then the other way that we're super lucky is, all these other companies are being forced to close their physical locations, and they're having to find solutions. And a lot of those solutions are things that we can help with. I've been, lucky enough to be called on to help implement some great responses to the current pandemic, and I'm just super thankful to be part of the solution rather than someone who's being hurt by the current situation.
Yeah, that's a great point. As in my past podcast, we were talking about how, sometimes we see the bad, right? But there's a lot of people. Obviously, we don't want to say the word, as far as taking advantage of the situation, but when it comes to working remotely, or like you said, like you have a virtual kind of status where you could still work, via remote and still help clients, right? But you still it's a different dynamic. But for your business, I'm assuming, if anything, it's actually booming.
Yeah, we're slammed right now. We're booked through the end of the year. Granted, it's November, so that's not saying too much, but we're struggling to find capacity for the projects that are coming our way. Just hiring people and growing. So,
as far as your company, when did you start the company, and how many, as far as employees, do you have right now?
Yeah, so started the company when I was a freshman in college, which was about 5 years ago. Started it out of my dorm room. It's changed names a couple of times, but it's been in the same industry, solving basically the same kind of problem during that time. The origin story is kind of funny, actually. I was 18. I was in college, and I was hanging out at like a hookah lounge, because that's like the thing you can do when you turn 18. And I was hanging out with my buddies, and one of the owners came up to us and was saying like, "Hey, they'd seen us a few times. They knew I was kind of like a computer guy because we chatted a little bit. They were like, "Hey, can you make us a website?" And my background was in graphic design. Up until that point, I was like a freelance graphic designer. And I'm like, how hard can it be? I figured there's a solution. So I just said yes, signed the proposal, signed the contract, and had to figure out how to make websites, I guess. That's how it started. So that's how the company started. From there, I quickly realized that it was harder than I thought. Ended up having to refund them, but that's only after spending 2 months trying to build their site. Lessons learned the hard way, I guess. But
yeah, it's experience right there.
For sure, man, for sure. And then over time, I started picking up more and more services. And then, long story short, ended up deciding that the best thing for me to do was to focus on one service and do that as well as I could. And that's what I do now, which is web design. And we've been pretty much only doing websites for, I'd say, 3 years. The broadened horizons ended about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, as far as that, you started when you were 18. Now, what year, or I don't want to give out your age, but
I'm 23.
So you're 23. So that's 5 years ago, right? Or
yeah.
So it's
5 years ago. It'll be 6 real soon.
So, during that time, you can still say that that time is a modern current time. So, if you're talking about 20 years ago, then it'll be a different type of service. So my next question is, the type of website that you build, are they from scratch? Are they something where it's, nowadays you have these services where it's like a plug and paste, right? So tell us a little bit about like your aspect and the way you go about making these websites.
Yeah, we got a 5-step process that we go through, but it is from scratch. We help people identify what their customers are actually looking for when they get to their website, and then we go through the process of helping them define how it should look, like what the aesthetic should feel like, what the order of the content on the page should be, and kind of guide their user through the journey towards, what the purpose of the site is. Like, how does your website generate revenue for your business? That's what we center everything around, and we build a user journey from entrance to that conversion point is what we call that. That's what the process looks like, and it gets a little bit more detailed than that, but essentially that's it in broad strokes.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point as far as the journey, right? The customer journey. Can you elaborate a little bit on as far as the importance of guiding your client through that journey, right? Solving their pain points, right? What's the problem that they're identifying as far as reaching those clients? So just talk to us a little bit about your process when you're talking to a client and just taking them through that journey.
Sure. As a business owner, you're probably used to answering the same kinds of questions on your sales calls. And if the business owner isn't the person who's doing the sales calls, then we'll bring in a salesperson and like have them speak with us about it. Like, what are the things that are your customers' biggest barriers to making a deal, to closing a deal? In my industry, I can tell you what they are right off the bat, right? So the number one thing that they want to know is like, what does your work look like? How do your sites look? Number two thing that they want to know is like, what do your clients say about you? Number three thing that they want to know is like, what is your process? What's going to happen? What's this process going to look like for me as I go through it? So those are the three things that I, right away, as soon as you land on my website, those are the things that I'm trying to make sure that you're crystal clear on. The other thing is, not everybody who comes to your website is going to know who you are for the first time. So you want to make sure that it's an easy transition for them when they get to the site for the first time as well. So I stole this rule from somewhere, but I love it. I can't remember where I stole it from, so sorry if I stole it from you. But it's within 3 seconds of landing on the site, someone who's never heard of you needs to be able to describe what you do. So that's why if you go to my website, sheragency.com, the very first thing you'll see is we make exceptional websites. Like, there's no ambiguity, there's no catchy headline, there's no catchy marketing, nothing. It's just straight to the point. Here's what we do. And, if you're in the right place, keep scrolling.
Interesting. Now, how important is having a video, right on your front page, right? And with that, do you incorporate as far as the video process, right? Do you is that a good idea to have a video right in the front page, or is it like what's your strategy behind that?
Yeah, I think if you can get the right kind of video, I mean, it depends on the industry for sure. But I have one on
Mhm.
my website, and I recommend that if you can get a great centerpiece for your business about answering one of your clients or customers' biggest questions, then I think it makes sense. What I'll say is that's not true for all businesses. Like if you're an apparel company, you probably don't need to have a ton of videos on your homepage. Maybe
Yeah.
product videos showcasing people wearing the clothing that might make sense on like your product page. Like if you're thinking of on Amazon, where you're like picking the size and color that you want, like having some video there might be useful. But if you're selling any kind of professional service, you should absolutely have some kind of a video introducing yourself, introducing your team, or introducing your process. In my case, I have a video of my process. If you have a software company, I really recommend people have like little animations of their software, kind of, people clicking through, demonstrating whatever the key feature or benefit is that you're trying to describe. It's so much easier to show than to tell. So that's kind of the heuristic. If it's something that can be shown rather than told, you should do that.
Yeah. I mean, from my vantage point, we get, some of the clients that we get, generally we're solving a problem, right? So they're generally going to be like overview videos, and the player that we use to to get those leads, and we kind of always pitch to the client, is using Wistia. Have you heard of Wistia, or
Yeah,
do you know as far as?
absolutely. It's a great tool.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on as far as like getting those leads, right? Like if clients are trying to get more customers, right? What tools would you recommend? And the tools that you recommend, do they work around as far as the mobile device, right? Everybody's just using their phones now, right? So talk to us a little bit about that, as far as that aspect when it comes to solving the client's problem, with the tools to get that client, right, to get those clients. But we have everything that's changing, right, the trends where everybody's using their phone. So talk to us about tackling those different types of strategies.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll answer your second question first. You're right on the nose when you say that the trend is that people are using their right on the mark rather. That when you say that people are using their phones more and more, it's 60% of traffic, and it depends on industry, but in general, 60% of traffic is coming from mobile devices these days. So a lot of
Probably
people are.
probably even more.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the industry. If you're doing any
Yeah.
kind of e-commerce, it's way more. Professional services, there's a slight increase in desktop traffic, but you can check for yourself and see on your own website. It's available in Google Analytics. But you're right, it's a huge thing. So anything that you do needs to work on mobile, and it needs to work better on mobile than it does on desktop. So what we
Mhm.
call that in the industry is mobile first design, and that literally means that what you're doing is you're starting out on mobile device, and then you build the desktop version after. That's not always a practical thing to do in terms of development, but from a design standpoint, that makes a ton of sense. Now, you asked about like tools that are used to capture leads. Again, that's something that varies by industry, but what I've seen for a lot of businesses, specifically in professional services and in a lot of real estate companies that are like real estate investors, having the option to actually schedule time with you is such a useful tool. So there's like that. A lot of people are nervous about that when I tell them that, because they're like, oh, I don't want to have people like conflicting with my schedule, or I don't want my whole calendar to get booked up every day. Like
Yeah.
there's parameters you can set in place. Like people can only book from me on Wednesdays from X to Y, from 5 to 10, or whatever time frame you want to be meeting with people, and it automatically syncs with your day calendar, so you won't get any conflicts. That's what I do for my business. And you can also do things like you can have like a contact form that people have to fill out beforehand, where people like answer questions that qualify them as a good lead. So for your business, like what's a good client for you, for example?
I mean, for me, it's generally gonna be somebody in the construction range, or they're doing something that they have a product, and with that product, they're solving problems, right? If whether it be you know, we we can build this for you, or we could make this product work for you. As far as, for example, I'm just gonna throw something random, but like a pool cover, automatic pool cover. So that's their product.
Cool. So that's super helpful. So let's say that you're getting a ton of leads on your website, and they're booking too much time on your calendar, and it's like totally ruining your schedule every day. What you could do is you could add a question before they get to your calendar that says like, is your product already built, or is it still an idea in your head? And maybe the people who it's still an idea in their head are like a waste of your time, because 80% of them aren't even going to end up building what they say they're going to do, and they have no money. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
true for you. That's just an example. But
That's you could probably say more than half of the time, if they do put out the form, right, you'll come out and you'll realize that the budget is too high for them, or it's always a money issue, right? So
totally,
it's always, if it just to kind of identify exactly what they need, right?
that's exactly right. So let's say it's budget then, instead of whether or not the product's built, if that's a better example for you. What you can do is you can select like budget ranges. So, maybe if what's your budget for this project, like under 5,000, 5 to 10,000, 10 to 15,000, whatever, they can pick whichever one. And then if they pick a budget range that you like, you can make it automatically direct them to your calendar and your like priority calendar. Otherwise, it goes to your email and you can just reach out to them if you feel like it. That's what I'm seeing a lot of people doing right now, is them like automating who gets your time and who doesn't. And that's how people are using their websites as business tools. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole. It's almost kind of like a setting up a CRM, and then where you have your priority clients or your leads, right? Um, what are your thoughts on because you have a small team? Is it a good idea to have some sort of CRM system? It's like a small team for a small business.
I would say absolutely. I'd say even if you don't have a team, even if you're the only person on your team, but the only salesperson on your team, you should have a CRM. And I'll give you two reasons for that. The first is you need to have some kind of a centralized database of everybody that's ever gotten in contact with you. So if I don't end up working with someone, I still have their email address. And if I want to run an email campaign, I can still blast out to all those people, and maybe some of them will respond to this new product I'm selling. Number two,
Yeah.
if you don't have some kind of a system for following up with leads, or for reaching out to people on their birthdays, or whatever it is, staying engaged with these people until they become a sale for you, that means you're just winging it and letting it, and not really putting a process behind it. And you're leaving money on the table when you do that. So what I recommend at a bare minimum, right, is have your leads go into a CRM, have automatically like 2 tasks set up for you, follow up in 7 days, follow up in 14 days, whatever it makes sense for you. And then, follow up with them on their birthdays and just wish them happy birthday. Those are the bare minimum things you can do that'll like boost your sales process through the roof. Just doing that, whether or not you have a team, is gonna absolutely improve your business.
Yeah, I think sometimes that might be even more important than having a website sometimes, because if you have that stuff, it's you wanna be proactive than reactive, right? It's kind of
And I
you
couldn't
got
agree more.
clients, maybe you got clients, let's say Tom is starting out a business and he wants a website. All the clients are going to start coming, but in reality you actually have to go get the clients. But it's just funny how I just feel like I think websites are kind of changing a little bit, right? And I feel like you rather even not even have a website, right? Sometimes some people might say, especially in my industry, that social media, is driving the kind of like the leads. You're getting DM'd and then you're not getting any response on the websites. But like you said, right, it depends on the industry. Um,
I think what you're getting to is like one of my core philosophies is like, you shouldn't start if you're bootstrapping. I'm not talking about if you've got like $1 million in seed round funding or whatever, but if you're bootstrapping and you're funding this company yourself, you shouldn't start with marketing. You should start with sales. You need to be actively reaching out to people, whether that's on LinkedIn, through email, whatever, and drive them to the cheapest landing page you can get until it becomes profitable. And then when you start to grow your business, that's when you reach out to someone like me and we build you like a really fancy website that works with all of your marketing campaigns and all that stuff. But when you're first starting out, man, I think you're right on the money there. You need to be doing things as efficiently as possible and be sales, not marketing, when you're starting out, and then slowly start to work marketing in when you're ready to. And that's coming from a marketer. That's against my best interest to tell you that, but I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Hey, are you a photographer, designer, artist, architect, model, musician, or even a makeup artist? You gotta check out Portfolio Box. With Portfolio Box, you're not forced to use any standard theme. You can use any style for any page and create a truly unique website that reflects you and your work. If you're a creative, it's a no-brainer. Get 50% off for 12 months on all plans with promo code ROD50. That's promo code ROD50. And check out portfoliobox.net today. You know, if somebody is starting like to build like a website, right? They're starting to start a business, because I feel like this year is like you're seeing a lot of people realizing, man, you know what? I should work for myself. I should start a business, right? At what point should they contact you, right? At what point should they go to, you know, the Sher Agency website and, you know, send you a message, right? Being that there's somebody out there that's looking to start a business.
I think most people, if this is your first business, like if you're, you know, starting something brand new and you've never run a company before, you need to build your own website. You shouldn't be hiring someone else to do it for you. Specifically someone like
wow. It's actually like that was your plug, man. But you know, I was just giving you.
No, man.
But that's honest. That's honest feedback. You know, as far as building it yourself. But yeah, go ahead.
We're not a your first website company. We're a your second, third, fourth website company. You know, once you started,
that's an interesting. I'm gonna use that as a nugget.
Yeah, it's a good thing to know where you fall in the life cycle of a company. But
repeat that.
I said it's a good thing to know where you fall in the life cycle of a company, right? Most of the time, the solutions that we provide people are not affordable when you're first starting out. It's unless you've gotten a bunch of funding or you have a ton of cash lying around and you just want to, you know, blast your marketing right off the bat. That might make sense for some companies, and we do get those every once in a while. But for the most part, you know, we're not the first round pick. I think that you should probably be doing your own website if it's possible, within a tool like Squarespace, and just get something up and then focus your efforts on making sales. So many people spend all of their time, you know, when they're, like you said, they're in that situation where you're like, you know, it's time to start working for myself. I don't want to work for my boss anymore. People spend all their time focusing on all the little details. I need to start, like, you know, writing blogs. I need to start creating a logo. I need to worry about web design. Like, the only thing you need to worry about right now is making sales. Everything else, do the bare minimum, and, you know, make sure that your product is solid. That's super important too. But once you've made sales, you will have to figure the rest out later. You have no choice. Once you've started making sales, you got to figure out. It's like when I sold that first website, you know, once I had sold the website, I had to figure out how to make websites. And I didn't get it right the first time. I ended up having to refund them. But from there, I was able to build a company that's been keeping me going for almost 6 years now.
Yeah, but you definitely learn from that experience, right? And from those mistakes, you kind of you were like, okay, this is not the way to go. And then from there, you kind of just, you know, you went right like a bird.
Dude, it changed my life. It was the best mistake I've ever made. Like, I totally fumbled, but from that experience, after that, I basically understood how making websites worked, because I had drinking like 6 Red Bulls and stayed up until 2 a.m. like too many times to not basically get it. So I was able to hire someone to do it for me. Next time, I just asked for a higher price, and then I hired someone that could build it on my behalf. And then suddenly it was less of a headache because someone who actually knew what they were doing was doing it. And I was leveraging my time and the money that I was being paid. And I went from a kid trying to figure it out to a small business owner.
Yeah. And I mean, you're still young, man. You still got a lot of way to go. So, I mean, for a lot of people listening, and, you know, that they're trying to start a business, whether it be building a website or selling clothes, you know, right now, especially if you're in your 20s, you know, like, it's a good time to start a business, you know. And I feel like, you know, you're way ahead of the game. You know, you got everything going, you know, you got your podcast going. So talk to us a little bit about your podcast, and what's that about, and where you're planning on taking it.
Yeah, it's definitely a very new thing. At the time of this recording that you and I are having, I've released 3 episodes and probably recorded somewhere close to 10, I would say.
Oh wow.
But it's so much fun. I get a chance to sit down with these people that have these awesome stories. Like some of the conversations I've had have blown me away. And what my philosophy is like I go on there and I don't pretend to know anything I don't know. I go on there and I just like say, hey, so you're a coach, and like this is the one I did yesterday. There was this woman I was chatting with. She's an absolutely brilliant sales and leadership coach, and she teaches a lot about like how to coach your employees. And that's something that I was struggling with at the I still struggle with how to best mentor employees and train them to be better. So I just was on there asking her for live advice about things, and it was awesome for her because she got a chance to show how brilliant she is on air, and she truly was. It was awesome, and it was super cool for me because in real time she was helping me solve problems, and she charges thousands of dollars for people to, I don't know, actually have no idea how much she charges, but she charges a lot of money for people to get the kind of advice that I got, and I got to get it for free. Man, I highly advise it. What do you think? Do you think podcasting has been worth it for you?
Yeah, so that's a whole different thing. But I want to tell you about. You say you recorded your first 10 episodes. Now, there's a stat where most people don't get past 10 episodes, right? There's like a huge percentage of podcasters that record less than 10, and after that they fall out. So after 10 episodes and you're still recording, congrats. That's a big accomplishment, man.
Thanks, man. 11's tomorrow.
Yeah, so there it is, man. But going back, podcasting has connected me with several people, and it's kind of just grown. I did have a podcast in 3 years ago, same name and everything, but it was more on just following just sports, mainly basketball. It was just like a sports talk hobby. But this year, especially with everything going down, working remotely, I started just concentrating on bringing just people that have a certain set of skill or in a particular business. And I'm noticing where you're getting pretty much like a, for example, yourself, right? You're in the website development industry. You could say that for somebody starting out, my audience will probably benefit from your key points and experiences, right? So you could say, that you're pretty much having a master class, on the daily or every weekly, however you release. But podcasting is kind of this new we're like in the golden era of podcasting, and I feel like there's a lot of information, and sometimes information is nowadays information costs money, right? And you'll be lucky if you get an ebook now, but you know what, if you get an hour worth of content, that's amazing. That's you don't get that nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. It's I wish I had done it years ago. It's so cool. And my original motivation for it, I'm in the web design industry, of course, and there's a ton of other web designers out there. And my original thought was okay, so what can I do to be different? You can do, and anybody can spend a couple of years and get really good at web design if they dedicate those years to it solely. And then they're a competitor for me. And that's so many, and it's not like I'm short on clients or anything, but I want to increase the value that I give people. So one thing I was thinking about was well, what if my clients have an opportunity to get publicity afterwards? And okay, so what's the best way to do that? I don't want to go back to running Facebook ads and Google ads and all these other services I used to provide. It's a pain. But I want to do something that I actually enjoy, like web design. So that's how I kind of arrived at podcasting. So now, I'm working on, growing that audience. So that way it's of use to my clients. And also I'm getting tutored in business by all these people. It's
exactly.
It's a good decision for so many reasons.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I like to have a word for that. When you're trying to get those kind of golden nuggets, right? But you're always trying to get better. You're always trying to, find mentors, and there's a word that I use, and it's called swagger jack. You're getting your jack. You're pretty much stealing somebody's skill. You're getting their swag from whether they're a real estate agent or website designer, or they're a graphic designer, or they play sports, but you're getting their knowledge, right? And you're kind of absorbing all that for yourself at the same time, so that's kind of like my little thing, right? So it's kind of you're swagger jacking them a little bit, but it's good. It kind of works both ways.
I love that term. I made Jack your term, swagger jacking. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So where you planning on taking the podcast, and as far as your business, right? Because 5 years, 10 years down the line, you might not be, Max Sher, the web designer. You might be maybe something else.
I think I'm an entrepreneurial person at heart, in the sense that I want to have a lot of things going on, and I like having multiple projects going on at one time. That's one of the reasons I'm attracted to web design, is because I can have my hands in so many different industries at once. So I've got a couple of other things that I'm working on in the background, but I think the Sher Agency will always exist. I don't ever see myself not being in that space. I really, really like it. It's a perfect match for me. I'm growing it right now. We're one of the things I'm working on as an entrepreneur, like I said, is like the training of new employees and getting them to be the perfect assets for my company, and also making a fulfilling careers for them. So that's part of what I'm working on right now. And where I see it going is I'm trying to create an environment where my current team trains a newer class underneath them almost. And that increases the capacity, because the biggest bottleneck for us in growing is not getting new clients. We get way more clients than we can handle, which I'm so lucky to say, and I never thought I'd be saying it. But the biggest bottleneck is finding really talented designers and developers. It's super hard to find someone who can do this at the level that we expect. And the only luck I've had is training people. So that's what we're going to be working on is, and where I see this going is it becomes something where the incumbent class trains the new guys, and then the new guys train the newer guys, and then the newer guys train the newer guys. And it's something that will kind of grow in that upward direction. That's kind of where I see that going. In terms of the podcast, I don't know if I have a good answer for you in terms of where I see it going. So far, it's an end in itself, right? Like if all it ever becomes is something where I get a chance to pick the brain of interesting people for an hour a day, man, I don't know if I could ask for anything better than that. That's what I do for fun.
Yo, that's awesome, man. So, with that, where can everyone find you, as far as first your agency, your social media, and where can they find your podcast?
Yeah, so my agency is called Sher Agency. It's sheragency.com, SHER agency.com. And my podcast is called Sink or Scale, like sink like a boat sinking, and then scale like weighing.
I love it.
sinkorscale.com and sheragency.com.
That Sink or Scale logo is perfect, man. It fits what you're doing, man. So that's a good job on that, man.
I appreciate that. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. I think we got a lot on this podcast, man. Thanks for stopping by. And I think on the next one, man, I think we should talk about SEO.
I'm
a little bit into that.
I'd love to. It sounds like fun.
Perfect. Max, thanks for stopping by, and enjoy the rest of your week.
You too, man.
Would you like to be on the podcast? Got something to talk about? Make sure to head over to the website at hardwoodrod.com. Leave your name and the topic you'd like to discuss, and I'll add you to the calendar.
We just want our respect. Rob wants his respect. Coach Vogel wants his respect. Our organization wants their respect. Laker Nation wants their respect. And I want my damn respect too.